In a city of noise, there was one street that seemed to pause, holding its breath. On the third floor, Elsie lived alone, surrounded by memories, faded photos, a worn armchair, and a clock that ticked softly in the silence. Her apartment was peaceful, but the quiet had grown heavy over the years. The world outside bustled, but inside, time seemed to slow. Elsie watched the seasons change through her window, the oak tree marking time she felt slipping by. She loved her home, but the silence was no longer comforting. It was a presence, settling over everything. The laughter and voices that once filled the rooms were now just echoes. Elsie was the keeper of this quiet, her life shrinking to the rhythm of the ticking clock. She wondered if anyone would ever break the silence again. Each morning, sunlight crept across Elsie's floor as she moved through her routine, tea toast and quiet. Loneliness wasn't sudden. It crept in slowly, filling the apartment like a fog. To fight it, Elsie talked to her plants and counted her steps from room to room. She set the table for two, pretending her husband was still there, sharing stories with the empty chair. These rituals were her shield against the silence. The quiet pressed in, but Elsie filled it with small sounds, her own voice, the clink of a teacup, the shuffle of slippers. She tried to keep the loneliness at bay, but some days it felt impossible. The apartment was her world, and the silence was her constant companion. Still, she hoped for a change, for a new sound to break the stillness. She waited, listening for something, anything to arrive. One afternoon, a gentle knock startled Elsie from her thoughts. She opened the door to find a little girl, Mina, clutching a crayon drawing of her missing orange cat, Marmalade. Elsie hadn't seen the cat, but invited Mina in to look out the window together. Mina's curiosity filled the room, her eyes wide at the treasures in Elsie's apartment. Suddenly, Marmalade darted inside and Mina's laughter rang out, bright and clear. The cat's purr and Mina's giggle filled the silence with warmth. Elsie smiled, feeling the fog of loneliness lift just a little. For the first time in years, her apartment echoed with new sounds, laughter, conversation, and hope. Mina's visit was brief, but it left the air sparkling. Elsie realized how much she'd missed the simple joy of company. The silence had finally been broken. Mina returned the next day, this time with a colorful drawing for Elsie. The apartment, once gray and quiet, began to fill with Mina's laughter and art. They shared tea in the long unused blue-flowered cups, and Mina's stories brought life to the kitchen. Elsie listened, and soon her own stories joined Mina's. The refrigerator became a gallery of crayon masterpieces. The air sparkled with conversation and laughter, chasing away the old silence. Elsie taught Mina checkers. Mina taught Elsie to see the world with fresh eyes. Together, they watched the world outside, discovering new wonders in familiar places. The apartment was no longer a place of waiting, but a home filled with friendship and joyful noise. Elsie's world was changing, one colorful day at a time. Seasons changed, but inside Elsie's apartment it felt like spring. The loneliness had lifted, replaced by the gentle presence of a friend. The quiet was now peaceful, filled with anticipation for Mina's next visit. Elsie's days were brighter, her routines filled with purpose and joy. The apartment was alive again, with laughter, stories, and the purr of Marmalade. Elsie realized she was no longer lonely. Her home and heart were full. Friendship had arrived quietly, with a timid knock bringing all the color she needed. Elsie knew now that even the quietest places could be filled with life. Sometimes, all it takes is a friend to open the door to joy.